Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a story that's equal parts creepy and thought-provoking. The Room with No Exit.
A classic setup with a really unsettling twist.
Right. I mean, we've all seen haunted house stories, but this one gets under your skin.
It really digs into those primal fears. The unknown, being trapped, isolation.
Exactly. So picture this. You've got this group of friends, Valeria, Martin, Camila, Andres, and Laura. They decide to have a little get-together in this old house.
Never a good idea in these.
Never. And this house, it's got this sealed-off room, shrouded in spooky local legends, naturally.
This adds to the ambiance.
Right. But here's where things get interesting. The room, it's not just a setting. It becomes this pressure cooker of anxieties. The story uses it to amplify all those fears we were just talking about.
Especially with those little details that start to feel off. Candles burning without end. Time feeling distorted.
And then there are the mirrors.
Ah, yes. The mirrors. Always a bad sign when those show up.
They're practically characters themselves. What's your take on the mirrors in this story?
Mirrors have always held a certain power in storytelling. They're portals, reflections of the soul, glimpses into other realities.
In this story, though, they're almost menacing.
Definitely. It's the way they're described, the subtle distortions, the feeling that they're watching the characters as much as the characters are watching them.
Like they're reflecting something deeper, something hidden.
Exactly. And it plays on that unsettling feeling we get when we look in a mirror and think, is that really me?
Okay, now that is creepy.
And it gets creepier. The reflections start to disappear. And then people start vanishing into thin air.
And not in a spooky ghost flying away kind of way. It's
different. More psychological. It makes you question what's real, what's imagined.
And what happens to those who disappear?
That's the real mystery, isn't it? The story doesn't give us any easy answers. It wants us to sit with that unease.
We're back and still trying to find our way out of the room with no exit. Before the break, we were talking about those disappearances, those unsettling vanishings.
And the psychological aspect of it all, right? Like, it's not just about ghosts or monsters. It's about something deeper. Something unsettling about the human psyche.
Absolutely. It's like the story is playing with our sense of identity, our sense of self.
Which is interesting, right? Because one of the first things to go are the reflections. It's as if the story is stripping away those external markers of self before getting to the core.
And then the disappearances themselves. They're just so weird.
It's not like they're being dragged away or anything. It's almost like they're unraveling.
Yes, like they're coming apart at the seams, and the story never really explains why or how.
Which I think is where the real horror lies. It's that uncertainty, that lack of control. We're left to fill in the blanks with our own fears.
Like, imagine being in that room. You see your friend just blink out of existence, and you have no idea why, no idea where they went. Would you even tell anyone? Would they even believe you?
And it makes you question, are they even really gone, or are they somewhere else? Trapped in some other layer of reality that the story only hints at.
Okay, now we're getting into some really unsettling territory. It's like the more we talk about this story, the more questions it raises. It's like this endless hall of mirrors, and every reflection is another layer of unease.
And then there's that ending. That void.
Talk about a gut punch. It's like just when you think things can't get any weirder, the story throws you this curveball.
And it's interesting, right? Because that door, the one they're trying so desperately to open, it represents escape.
Freedom, a way out of that claustrophobic room.
Exactly. But instead of finding freedom, they find nothingness.
The ultimate unknown. Which, in a way, is even scarier than anything they could have imagined, right?
It's the ultimate fear of annihilation, of losing yourself completely.
And they choose to go into it. Why do you think they made that choice?
It's a question that lingers long after the story ends, doesn't it? I think.
Maybe.
It's not about choosing the void as much as it is about choosing something else, something beyond comprehension.
Maybe the room, that confined space with its distorted reality and unsettling reflections, maybe it had become so unbearable that even the void seemed like a kind of relief. So we're left with this image of the void, this ultimate unknown. And I have to ask, what do you think it all means?
That's the beauty of a story like this, isn't it? It invites us to find our own meaning, what scares us, what makes us tick. The Room with No Exit holds up this dark mirror to our anxieties, to those unsettling questions we try to avoid.
It's like the story saying, hey, here's this room, this situation, how do you deal with it? Except instead of a physical room, it's all those internal spaces we try to keep hidden.
The parts of ourselves we don't want to acknowledge, the fears, the insecurities, the voids we carry inside.
And it's interesting because even though the story doesn't give us answers, it doesn't tell us what the void is or where those people disappeared to, it does offer a strange kind of comfort.
Oh, so?
Well, it's like knowing that we're not alone in those anxieties, that other people, even fictional characters, grapple with these same existential questions. It's almost just validating.
Definitely. There's a sense of shared humanity in that, a reminder that it's okay to be afraid of the unknown, of what we can't control.
And maybe even to find some kind of peace with it. Like those characters who stepped into the void, they didn't know what awaited them, but they chose to face it head on.
A leap of faith, in a way. Or maybe a leap of desperation.
Perhaps a bit of both. But it makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the choices we make when faced with the unknown. Do we fight? Do we flee? Or do we find a different way to navigate that darkness?
The Room with No Exit doesn't offer easy answers. It doesn't tie everything up with a neat little bow. But it does give us something to think about, something to chew on long after we close the book.
It's been a wild ride, that's for sure. A huge thank you to you, expert speaker, for helping us unpack this twisted tale.
It's been my pleasure. Always happy to delve into the darker side of storytelling.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us in The Room with No Exit. Remember to keep those lights on, and we'll see you in the next Deep Dive.